thing called love. Something so simple yet complicated. It's got me all up in my emotion. Hellenistic ways, everything is pagan. I had to change my ways. I was stuck in a cycle of tradition.
All right, hello. It's been a couple of weeks, so blessings to you all. Shalom. This is the day that the Most High has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. So coming to you all to do another video, another testimony. Again, the name of my channel is Abba Heals, and Abba in Hebrew is Father. So the Father heals, and He has healed me. And because of that healing, you know, I'm being obedient and I'm sharing my testimony of some of the things that I've gone through in my life and how He healed me through all of those trials, through my disobedience and, you know, all of that. He kept me, He healed me. And it's trauma, definitely trauma that I had to deal with in order for me to grow, in order for me to move forward. But I had to deal with that trauma. I couldn't sweep it under the rug. I couldn't act as if it didn't happen. So my last video, I spoke about some trauma that I went through in a relationship. I was in an abusive relationship and ended it at the age of 19. I had a child. She was 2 at this time, and I was a college student. I was living on campus. So here I am, a new mom, in college with the child, trying to figure out life. So, you know, like any college student, I was dating. Now I will say that with the things that went on in my life, the trauma that I dealt with from my stepdad and abusive relationship, I did go through a stage of promiscuity, and the Most High definitely kept me through that stage, because anything could have happened. Now with being promiscuous and having trauma, some soul ties definitely happened, and I didn't know how to deal with those soul ties. Sleeping with people and picking up their spirits, whatever spirits are on them, that's a real thing. That's a real thing that we have to deal with. So I had these spirits on me, and then, you know, I ended up in a relationship with someone that definitely, you know, unequally yoked. And me and him got together, and, you know, I was 20 years old dating him. And that same year that me and him started dating was the same year I lost my mom. And if you have not watched that video on the day I lost my mom, go back and watch that video. That video talks about the grieving process that I went through. It doesn't go into detail, because that's where I'm at now in this video, how I was grieving and dealing with the trauma of my stepdad, the trauma of not having my dad around when I was younger, when they divorced. You know, him, as far as him not being in the home, he was around, but he just wasn't in the home. And you know, the abusive relationship. So I had stuff on top of stuff. I was like impacted, you know. I don't know if you've ever known anyone to be impacted with not being able to use the restroom. I was impacted with trauma, and it was starting to seethe out in different ways. So when I lost my mom, man, I'm like, what in the world? What is going on? And I'm in this new relationship. And again, we're unequally yoked. But because I had lost my mom and this guy was here for me, like, that was nothing but the Most High. It really was, to have him there for me during this time, during this grieving process where I'm depressed. I can't get up and feed myself, let alone my child. Man, I was grieving hard. I grieved so hard. My anxiety was so high. I had to go part-time in college because I was having anxiety attacks in class, to where one time I ran out of class during a presentation because my anxiety levels were so high. but I just didn't know how to deal with everything. I didn't know how to deal. And so this guy, man, he was awesome, in helping me through this process. He made sure I ate, made sure my child ate, made sure my house is clean, bought me all kind of stuff that was in memory of my mom that helped me grieve. So I'm so thankful for that. And the most I put him there for that season, he really did. However, that season was really supposed to be only for a short time. And unfortunately, when you have trauma, and then we had that soul tie because, we had been intimate, and that was something hard. It was hard for me to let go. And then he also had trauma and brokenness. Remember, we as a people, we got trauma overall. It don't matter who you are. We as a people, we got trauma because of the things that we've been through in our past from our ancestors, things that we never dealt with within our family. And when you come together, two broken people that have not dealt with their trauma, it never goes well. It just doesn't, unless these two people are willing to go and work these things out and talk to someone and then be on the same page spiritually. We were not on the same page spiritually. I was going to church, Bible study, vacation Bible school, mother's ministry, and he was not. He was in the streets, and I wasn't. Now, I was from the hood. I knew about the hood. I grew up in the hood. I just didn't live that lifestyle. Like, it just never appealed to me. But the guys appealed to me, and that was something in me that I had to deal with. Why was I attracted to these type of individuals versus someone that was in church that I knew would take care of me and my child? I was not attracted to that. So we was in this relationship, for years. Man, it was toxic. So we had very good days. We had a lot of good times, good memories. But I ended up in a relationship that, man, it wasn't physically abusive, but it was verbal abuse. Getting called all kind of names. And by then I'm already intimidated. If you come at me any kind of way after what I've been through with some of the men in my life, I was easily intimidated. But then I would lash out physically. Oh, I'm not gonna let this guy do this to me like the other guy. So if you're gonna cuss me out and say this, then I'm gonna lash out. I'm gonna haul off and I'm gonna hit you. Which is very unhealthy. It was unhealthy, but I didn't know how to deal with what I had gone through and still going through. At one point, during this time after I lost my mom and I had went through all of this with my ex and, the abuse from my stepdad, I really just felt like, at that time, I'm saying, God, he didn't care about me. Like, so why should I care about what's going on, So here I am dating this guy. I'm in college. I would come home on the weekends because I only went to college 45 minutes away. On the weekends, I would go out, I would do my clubbing thing on Saturday nights. But I made sure Sunday morning I was up in church. So I was living this double-minded life. I'm saying? I'm going out, drinking, and having fun, dancing and things like that. Listening to this old ratchet music. That stuff was entering my body, and then trying to go to church the next day. And then, trying to be a girlfriend or whatever, and trying to be a mother at the same time and a college student. I had a lot going on. I had a whole lot going on. And, it was unfair to my child that she saw me in a light to where that I was very unstable. I was unstable. And she saw me in a relationship that was unstable. A relationship where she saw me being talked down to, And I did not want her to think that's the way a woman should be treated at all. You know, I had already gone through abuse with her dad, and here I am in this relationship. So it was very rough, to say the very least. But I continued on in that relationship for years. We welcomed a child together. He's a great dad. I will give him that. A great dad. He's very, what's the word I'm trying to say? He's not selfish at all. Well, we all can be selfish, but when it came to his family, you know, he wasn't selfish. He just didn't know how to be in a relationship. He didn't know how to deal with the trauma, the things that he saw, you know, in his lifetime. He didn't know how to deal with it. So it spilled out in our relationship. And, you know, after we had that child together, shortly after that, you know, he felt like he needed to be on his own by himself. He didn't want to be in a relationship no more. And that hurt. You know, that hurt me a whole lot. But at the same time, I felt like, well, maybe this is the best thing. So my child is he's not even a year old. And, you know, we end up breaking up. And at the same time, my grandmother has a heart attack. And I got to take her in, you know, and take care of her because my mom is deceased, my uncle is deceased. And I'm the only grandchild right here in the area. So I had to take care of my grandmother, you know, with a newborn baby, you know, child under 1, and then a 9-year-old. So it was very rough for me at this time. And I remember, you know, just feeling overwhelmed, blood pressure very high. Like I just was trying to find my way still through life, you know, still was very active and I still was praying, but at the same time I felt like, man, Father, how much can you put on me right now? Like, and then I had to think, you know, some of the stuff he wasn't putting on me. I had the red flags. They were all there. I was doing it to myself. I was just being hard-headed, stiff-necked, disobedient. So, you know, with my grandmother living with me and taking care of her after the heart attack, she also had dementia. So she was going through stages of, you know, forgetfulness and childlike. You know, she's being very childlike. So it wasn't like I had 2 children. It was like I had 3. And ended up getting back, you know, with my ex. We ended up getting back together. And I got pregnant again. And at this time, me and him were back together, but it's very, very rocky. I'm working, I'm trying to work, and he's, you know, not really able to keep a job. And because of that, you know, I needed help with childcare. And, you know, he just wasn't dependable at that time, you know, as far as childcare, watching the children, especially the infant, the toddler at that time. And I just remember being just so depressed and in a dark place. Like, being pregnant, I didn't want to be pregnant. I did not want to be pregnant. And I remember disassociating myself with this pregnancy. Like, in my mind, I'm not pregnant. I can't have another baby with him. All the stuff we've been through, the verbal abuse, I'm not bringing another child into this. Like, in my mind, like, I'm not pregnant. I'm looking up ways, oh, Father, I'm looking up ways to have a spontaneous abortion, miscarriage, because I'm like, I can't do this. I can't have this baby. And I remember telling him, I'm not keeping this baby. We got into it real bad one day, really, really bad. And I remember locking myself in the bathroom, and he's cussing and beating on the door and things like that. And I called my dad. I'm like, Daddy, come help me. You know, I called my dad crying, and he came over. And, you know, they get into an altercation, and I'm just, y'all, I wasn't there. All I remember is going into the kitchen and swallowing a bottle of prescription pills. I don't even remember what the pills were. And my dad's friend that was with him, you know, he saw that I was out of it. He was like, we gotta call the ambulance. She gotta go to the hospital. She took something. And ambulance picked me up. They took me to the hospital. They said my eyes were completely dilated and you know, trying to get the medication out of me. And all praises to the Most High, I was okay. And I remember them coming into the room and saying, well, ma'am, do you know that you're pregnant? And I said, yes, I know. And I told them, but I'm not keeping it. So I said it, like I didn't even, oof. Yeah, that's rough. That's hard. It's hard to talk about, but I gotta share. So shortly after that, some weeks after that, you know, I called around to a couple of clinics, and I found a place and set the date. Had you know, a couple of friends, sisters, best friends, had them set up to where they would drop me off. This person would pick me up. I would stay at this person's house while I recover. And January, at the end of January of 2013, I had an abortion. I killed my baby. Killed my own child. He was very upset about that, rightfully so. I don't even remember how I felt. Like, I was so numb. I wasn't even myself. I remember my grandmother calling and asking me, why did I do that? And I remember going off on my grandmother. That's not me. If anybody knows me, that's not me. And I went off on my grandmother and I hung up in her face. And that's something that I never thought I would do. Like, I never thought I would do anything like that. But because of the trauma that I had not dealt with, the loss of my mother, you know, years prior, and then being in a relationship where I didn't feel valued, you know, being called out of my name and being cheated on, and like, he don't care. Why should I? The Most High don't care for me right now. Why bring a baby into this? And that was the most selfish thing I could have ever done. The most selfish thing. And I stayed in a relationship. After that, you know, it still continued to be rocky. But I stayed in that relationship because we already had a child together, and I wanted my child to have his father. And, you know, he wanted to be there. But by then, the damage, the damage was done. There really was no coming back from that. But because of that soul tie, those spirits that were transferred, you know, I don't think people understand when you get into a relationship and you transfer spirits, whatever is on them now is on you. Whoever they slept with, those spirits transfer from them onto that person, and now you done slept with that person, and those spirits are on you. So at this point in life, like, I remember, you know, people checking on me, and they hadn't seen me in church, and I'm getting text messages and inbox, you know, on Facebook, and I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? I was not myself. Like I said, remember I said I hung up in my grandmother's face, going clubbing, doing all this stuff. I wasn't myself, and it's because I had all these spirits on me, and I didn't understand that when you mingle spirits and you have the soul tie, you got to denounce those spirits. You got to renounce, and you got to repent. And I didn't understand that. And it took years. I mean, years. Probably like 4 years. 3 or 4 years ago before I realized this. After this relationship was finally over, it took me years to understand and realize it. So again, I stayed in this relationship for another 7 years. No, I stayed in a relationship for another 5 years after the abortion, and it was up and down. It was so up and down, like so toxic. To where one time, I remember telling my daughter, you don't ever get into a relationship like this. You don't ever let a man belittle you and call you out your name. You are a child of the Most High. I remember telling her that. And in the same breath, I think that next day, I took him back. Like we had gotten into a big fight, and I told her all of that. And that same day, the next day, I went back to him. What kind of mess was that? What was that showing my daughter? What trauma did I put her through? Because of my selfishness, my disobedience. And really, at that point, I was reprobate. The Most High had turned me over to a reprobate mind, and those spirits that were on me, they were having their way. They were having their way, and it was affecting my family. So, and all that, I wanted to say that we have to understand that our trauma, if it's not dealt with, we're controlled by that trauma. And it don't matter what you do, sleeping around, drinking, drugs, working yourself to death, working 50 million jobs. None of that, you're masking it. If you're not dealing with that trauma, you're masking it, and you have to go and talk to someone. Like, I eventually went and got counseling during this time. I went and got counseling. And then I took some time and really talked to the Abba. I started reading my scriptures. I really started listening to wisdom. I really started going to find wise counsel to talk with someone older than me that had gone through all this. My grandparents, my dad, and that was there for me all that time, but I didn't seek it. I turned a blind eye to it. But I was tired of being hurt. After that last bout of depression I had, you guys, it was so dark for me. Like, I felt like I was a walking zombie, like the Walking Dead. I was just going through the motions, but I was so depressed, and I'm like, I can't keep going through this. I cannot be a mother to my two children and be depressed like this. They're not getting the best me. This is not what I want them to see, because I knew, had I continued down that road, that those suicidal thoughts that I had once before, they were going to come back. And after that last time of finally paying attention to that red flag and being hurt, it's crazy, because the day that I got re-baptized, re-immersed, was the day that I found out that this person I had been with for years in this relationship, cheated on me. And I knew he had been cheating on me, but this was like right in my face. I had to leave. And all praises to the Most High, He worked it out to where we were in an apartment together, and the electricity got cut off, and I stayed there for a couple of days with no electricity. It was cold, I remember, but I was always that ride or die chick. I was right there by his side no matter what. And the Most High was like, you gotta go, you gotta leave. So we left that apartment. It was still in my name, and I still was paying rent on it, but we had no electricity, and the electricity bill was like astronomical, and they had put a switch hold on my account, so I couldn't even get electricity. And the Most High moved me out of that relationship to where I could focus on him and really, really heal. And during this time, when I say y'all, I cut off everything. I wasn't listening to no worldly music. I wasn't watching any shows of the world, like nothing. It was all about the Abba, all about the Father. I was reading scriptures. I was going, the Bible study at this time now, I was observing the Shabbat, the actual Sabbath. And I just was inundated in the Most High. I just let his spirit, his Ruach, control me. I let the Ruach lead. And that strong man that was bound, I had to let it go. And what's crazy, during this time that I was transitioning spiritually, I was being attacked in my dreams. Like I was being held down. It was like these spirits did not want to leave me. But I had to denounce those spirits. And I want to tell you all, you got to denounce those spirits. You got to repent for the things that you've done knowingly and unknowingly. But those soul ties that you have from sleeping with other people, you have to denounce those spirits. If not, you're going to continually go through things and you're not going to know why. You're not going to know why. You're going to continue to have this Jekyll and Hyde attitude about you. I'm like, why do I feel like this day? And why do I act like this sometimes? Because you still have those spirits from those people that you slept with on you. You still got trauma that you didn't deal with from when you were 5 years old. You still got things in your past that you thinking it's all good. I don't have to say sorry. Or they don't have to say sorry to me. It's all good. I'm going to move on. But we can't do that. We can't do that. And I just want to say that the Most High is awesome, because during that time of healing, my now husband, we were just singing together on the praise team, but the Most High strategically put him in place. Like I never could have imagined. I never could have imagined. The greatest love, of course, is loving the Most High with all your mind, your heart, your mind, your soul, your body. Loving your neighbors, you love yourself. And being found by my husband is like the greatest love. So that's my testimony of going through all of that trauma. My goodness. Soul ties. Whew. Trying to figure out this thing called life, all by myself. So I hope you all were blessed. I hope I helped someone. I pray that the Most High blesses your home, your being. I pray, that you're moved to repent and renounce and denounce those spirits upon you. And I look forward to sharing more of my life, the good things. But how the Most High, I had to let him have his way. And I had to let go of the steering wheel. I had to let go and let him have his way. All praises. Hallelujah.
I pray my sin